Hey, Tom here from the Run Testers. I am once again back in Brighton to do the Brighton Half Marathon. I'm just stood around the start line now. It's looking pretty busy. It's perfect weather for it. You never know with Brighton Half Marathon whether it's going to be a storm or it's going to be a great day. It's looking like it's going to be a perfect day for a half marathon today. I'm going to be using the Brooks Hyperion Elite for PBs. First time racing over 5k distance in these officially, and I'm quite looking forward to it. Feeling pretty good. So I haven't been training for this, so I'm not expecting major fast time. I'm not going to get PB in this, but I'm hoping to claw something relatively positive. Right, so I will see you guys after the race. Right, so I'm back now from the Brighton Half Marathon 2025, and it was a perfect day for it. You never quite know with races on the South Coast, especially around this time of year, what it's going to be like. So you can have a really good day where it's not windy, perfect conditions. You can have storms where it's almost impossible to run in, and I did do one, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, where the wind was so bad on the way back that people were just struggling to maintain a running pace on the return back to the finish line. But this year's race, absolutely perfect. The weather was spot on. It couldn't have been better. If you were there and did it, you will know very well that we got a very lucky year for the half marathon. Really interesting year for the race because the course has changed for the first time in a very long time. Previously, the start line of the race and the finish line were at Madeira Drive, which is down near the marina, and I've said in previous videos that I've never been a fan of that place as a start and finish line for the race, because in the morning it is chaos because you've got one road, and most of that road was the race course, so there was very little space to actually move back and forth down to find toilets and bag drops and stuff like that. It was really difficult race to start off and finish at. Now it starts at Hove Lawns, which is where most races now start and finish, I think, in Brighton, because it's just way more logical. You've just got a lot more space there. There's the lawns are just open to putting loads of tents and stuff on there. It's easier to access, so definitely a very good move. And the start line of the course was perfect. It's a really good place to have it. It was very well organised. The bag drops are really nice and easy to get to. Didn't have any issues at all. Didn't feel like chaos like it had done in previous years. Pretty much spot on. The race itself, so the course previously started at Madeira Drive, and the first thing you did was you ran up the hill towards Peacehaven. It's not a massive hill, but you really notice it on the new course. So previously you'd come out from the start line and you'd run up this hill for about, I think it's about 2.5k, 3k, maybe a little bit more. It's a gradual hill, so when you're just starting the half marathon, you don't really notice it that much, and you're normally excited. You're getting into the race. So I've never found it an issue in the previous races, and it worked quite well in the previous events, because then you have a really nice downhill and then it's all basically flat for the rest of the race. So it's quite nice to just get that out of the way. In the new course, because you're starting at the Hove Lawns, you do it the opposite way. So you run across down the road, following the coast, and you end up going a little bit into the levels, and eventually about halfway you get to this hill, and I'm not very fit at the moment, and I really noticed this hill halfway, and I really struggled. That's basically my speed drops off a cliff around that point. It was slowing down a bit before then, but by that point I really noticed that hill, and after that I just sort of phoned it in. I wasn't really in a good position to maintain the pace, because I'm not in top physical condition at the moment. Aside from that, you come back into Brighton. The last bit is all the way back down towards Hove Lawns, a bit further down. Then you turn around and you come back down the coastal path, which is very nice route on the day, because the weather was perfect, and there were nice crowds and everything. And the finish line is quite nice being there as well. The organisation of the course is very good. There's plenty of water at various points. I think it was about every 3 to 5k across the course, so worked out very well from that. The crowds are really good, lots of crowds because it was a nice day, and generally in Brighton, if it's a nice day, you get a lot of people there. The rest of the route was really good. The marshalling was fantastic, no issues at all. It was a really, really good race, and I think the new course is better than the previous ones, just because of the way that it's set out on the start line and the finish line. The only tricky bit is that hill, which I think normally I wouldn't find such a big issue with that, but because I'm not very fit at the moment, I really noticed that hill. So my race wasn't great. Last year I was hitting about 1 hour 25 for half marathon times, and my PB is actually at Brighton Half Marathon 2 years ago, where I got 1:22, I think. But this year I'm nowhere near that level of fitness, and I think I might be slightly ill this weekend as well, because I wasn't feeling that great before the race, but I ended up with a 1:33. I started off the race, the first 5k I basically ran at my 5k pace or 10k pace, so I did the first bit in 19 minutes 20 or something like that. After that I really started to feel like I wasn't going to maintain that pace, which is generally what my stupid race strategy is most of the time. I try and maintain a fairly fast pace for as long as I can. Sometimes it works, sometimes I can maintain it for a while. When I did Manchester Half Marathon last year, I was running at 4-minute kilometre pace for the whole way, and that was a bit experimental because I didn't know how fit I was at the time, and ended up with a 1:25 in Manchester Half Marathon. This one I knew by about 7k that I just didn't have anything in the tank for it, so my time gradually goes down over the course of the half marathon, and I ended up with a 1:33, which isn't a great time for me, but expected at the moment based on the training that I've done, and the fact that I've not really been that focused on races. I've got Manchester Marathon coming up next month, but I'm not really aiming for a fast time in that. I'm just going with a load of friends. So great event, really like the new course, really well organised. Massive thank you for Sussex Beacon, the charity, for inviting me down and to take part in the race, and well done to Joe Wilkinson, who he presented the start of the race. He was the starter for it, and I had a little chat with him at the start, so well done Joe for finishing it, and well done to everyone else who did the race. It was a really good day, and I think a lot of people really enjoyed it, and thanks to all the people that ran past me at various points and said hello as I slowed down in the latter stages of the race. Oh, and they've got a really nice medal. It's the best medal I've seen from the Brighton Half Marathon. Really nice design on this one. It was also sponsored by Ultra this year, which I think is the first year that Brighton Half Marathon has been sponsored by a sports brand. So they had a big tent there. So yeah, I didn't go. I didn't have time to go in. But yeah, sponsored by Ultra this year. Right, let's have a look at the kit that I used. So when we did the review for the Brooks Hyperion Elite for PB, I did say in that review that I really like this shoe. I think it's a fantastic race shoe. I've used it for 5k and 10k distances now, and I think it's really, really good at those distances. I did say on that video that I don't think I'd like it for longer distances, so half marathon and marathons, but I did want to see if I was correct on that during the Brighton Half Marathon. And I think I was right. I think for me, I think for a lot of people, I think for Nick, I think for Kieran, I think this shoe, I think Asics Metaspeed Sky works really well. I still like a little bit more cushioning in my shoes, and I really noticed it with the Brooks Hyperion Elite for PB. For the first 10k, absolutely loved it. Felt fast. I ran 19:20 for the first 5k. Felt great. Really, really, really nippy shoe, and at the moment that's a really fast time for me. I mean, I'm struggling to get under 90 minutes for a park run, so I was running pretty fast for that, and it felt really good for that. It's a really fast nippy shoe, feels really light on the feet, but I definitely felt like in the latter stages of that race, so when I was coming up to the teens, when I was going up to like 15k, I could really feel that I just wanted more cushioning in the shoe. I just wanted a bit more to it. I think something like the Alpha Fly 1, where the shoes that I really like to use for longer distances, whereas this, it just felt like I just wasn't getting enough bounce from it that I normally like. That's a personal preference. I think there's a lot of people who would very much enjoy using this shoe for a half marathon or a marathon, but after using this and after using the Asics Metaspeed Sky for Valencia last year, I definitely need a bit more cushioning in my long distance running shoes. So for me, and if you're like me and you just like shoes that have a lot of bounce and cushioning and energy return in them, you might have a similar experience where this shoe, for me, I'm definitely going to stick to using it for 5Ks and 10Ks. Half marathon, I'm going to use another shoe that's got a little bit more to it, but still think it's a fantastic shoe. It wasn't a bad shoe for me running in. I just didn't enjoy it as much as I would in some of the other shoes that I test. Something like the Hoka Cielo X1, which I really enjoy that shoe. So yeah, really great shoe, just not quite right for me for that distance. It's not the reason I didn't get a good time. That was purely down to my fitness and my training. But for comfort, I definitely felt like I wanted a bit more cushioning on that run. But the first 5K, first 10K felt really good, felt really fast. Definitely enjoyed it for those distances. And I'm probably going to stick to using this shoe for 5Ks and 10Ks from now on. It's a great parkrun shoe for me. I'm really enjoying it at the moment as I try and get my times down in parkrun. But yeah, it's a fantastic shoe. Not quite for me for those longer distances. So I stand by what I said in the review of the shoe, and I think for me this is just a little bit better for those shorter distances as opposed to longer distances. But yeah, I still think this is a fantastic top tier carbon plate shoe. I think a lot of people are going to get on with this, and I think it's a competitor now for some of the best shoes out there. I think a lot of people might even find this as their favorite shoe. But for me, shorter distances. So yeah, that's all I tested out at the Brighton Half Marathon. I didn't have any other kit to try out, so it was really just these. But great day out. Big thank you to the Sussex Beacon for inviting me down to take part in the race. I'll put a link in the caption below so you can find out about the charity and the work that they do with people living with HIV. And also big thanks to the Brighton Half Marathon as well. It was a really good event and all of the marshals and everything did a great job. So yeah, well worth looking at if you're looking for a good half marathon next year. It's also very well placed before marathons. So the reason why I like doing it is because normally it's about a month before or about a month and a half before the marathons that come up at the start of the year. So it's a really good test to see how fit you are. And I'm not very fit at the moment. But that's it from me. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and click that little bell. And if you're going to catch me below, you can find it into our podcast, which comes out a couple of times each month. Thanks a lot for watching. Catch you next time.